ask Nicole to take roll call, please.
Bodie,
Here.
Cacciatore,
Here.
Aubrey Montgomery,
Here.
Kroll,
Here.
Rosendahl.
Here.
Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 3 is Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda. Would anyone like to address the council this time? Yes, okay, ma'am. If you could please come up here and give your name and address. Make sure the microphone on. There should be a little button in the middle at the bottom, and the green light will turn on if it's,
Speak pretty loud.
well, we need to have it for the presentation outside too.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
We're
Is
good?
it
All
good?
right, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Cheryl Jarvis, and I live on the corner of 80th and Aurora across from Lakeview Park. And there's been some issues that I've been having. We moved to Urbandale about 15 years ago. Something good to know is that we've exercised our whole adult life. Since we moved here, we have several times asked for a Kaibo to be put at Lakeview Park. This has been an ongoing thing, an ongoing ask, and nothing ever happens. Well, I find that there's going to be a bike path outside my house. Well, I wasn't happy about it. I grew up where there was no sidewalks, and I know that bikes and people and cars don't belong in the same street. All the statistics and everything else aren't going to tell me more than my life-lived experiences have shown me. And so that was quite a shock. I feel like there's a lot of authoritarianism going on, and I don't think it should be going on in our city. And forcing that upon us is authoritarianism. I would have liked to seen more letting the people know that this was going to happen instead of getting the letter as too late, here you go, you're stuck with it. So I think the city can do a better job. I think it can do a better job of listening to its people. So one thing that we did was we decided that we would go to the senior center and we would exercise there because there's a bathroom there, so that's great. You can drink water and you have a place to go to the bathroom, and that's what you need. You need to hydrate, and then you need a place to eliminate. That's just common sense. Well, that's not happening. It's not happening. So at the senior center, that was good. We paid a flat rate every year. Then the fee went up to $50, okay. And then after COVID, the fee went up to what would be $500 a year if we took the same amount of classes. Now, to me, that is way overreach. It should not happen. I have said at the senior center, parking is an issue. There's people coming and going, and you can't get around. So how about keeping the Zoom? Nope, couldn't do that. So you're paying more money, but what are you getting? You're not getting listened to, you're getting ignored. So that didn't make me very happy. So I'd like to see the city do a better job, and I'd like to see the city stop taking advantage of its residents. At the senior center, we twice went to somewhere that was free, quote, free admission. But we were charged $5 each to get in. I would have rather made a free will donation than pay the senior center $5 a piece for something that's free. I just don't think the taking advantage of us is reasonable. And I would like for all of you to consider that. Thank you for hearing me out.
All right, thank you. Thanks for your comments. You know, just in response I'll just comment on the Aurora project. We did have a number of public input sessions on that, and we got a lot of input on it. We really tried to reach out to the public on this. We've been talking about this for a number of years. So I guess it's been anything but authoritarian. We've gotten a lot of public input and had a lot of public education on that. So I'm sorry you feel that way, but I think we've really tried to work very hard to get the education out. And that's really the goal, certainly, of our staff and of this council, is to get information out to our residents and get the input as much as we can. So I'm sorry you feel that way, but we really do truly do our very best to try to get the information out and listen to our residents. We know that we answer to you. We're not trying to be authoritarian at all. So if you'd like to discuss further, I'd be happy to talk offline sometime, and you can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to discuss anything more with you. So, but thanks for coming up tonight. So, is there anyone else who'd like to address the council that's not something that's not a part of tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on. Item 4 is the adoption of the minutes from the council meeting of August 4. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 5 is the consent agenda. There are 15 items on the consent agenda for approval.
Move approval of the
Motion by
consent
Kroll,
agenda.
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6, we are into public hearings. First is item 6.1 is a public hearing to consider the Schaefer property voluntary annexation. The public notice for this was published in the August 1, 2025 Des Moines Register. Ask any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote.
Bridget?
I swear I hit it already.
That passes. And to introduce us is our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve?
Thank you. Good evening, all. I combined this item and the next item into the same staff report for obvious reasons. This is the annexation issue, so we'll take that one first. This is a request for a voluntary annexation. The property in question is owned by the siblings of the Schaefer family, and it's these two parcels located here on the north side of Meredith Drive. There are actually two parcels that are involved. And then just for reference, so you could see it, the parcels here to the south, these purple colored parcels is the Des Moines Christian parcels that is currently going through the process. So these properties, these Schaefer properties, like the Des Moines Christian properties, are in Polk County. They're part of the Grimes Severance area as defined by our annexation moratorium agreement with the city of Grimes. The latest version of that was approved in 2021. And accordingly, the Grimes City Council did pass a resolution to sever this Schaefer property on June 24th. And so the next step would be for you all to consider now this application for voluntary annexation. In keeping with the requirements of the code, you can see that there is this 50-foot strip, everything in green to the north, and then this area down here to the south. The remaining day parcel and the Harding parcel are in the city of Grimes, so we did need to keep that connection. So you'll see the note here that this 50 feet does not get included so that we can keep that connection. So that's the other procedural thing I wanted to mention to you. I don't think I have anything else to add at this point. Would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve on this?
Steve, the Meredith Drive portion stays in Grimes for the time being.
For
is
the
that
time being, that will be coming to you next.
Okay.
At the time that we did just Des Moines Christian, we didn't need to deal with that, but now the Schaefer property wants to come in, and so that's something that we have to deal with. So that
Gotcha.
public hearing is October 8th, Nicole, I think, is that right? Yeah, so.
And that would, we have those split up because that's just a separate owner and so it's
Correct.
a separate
We're
hearing.
gonna take them to the city development board, should you approve that, we're gonna take them to the city development board at the same time. It
Gotcha.
was just a timing issue that particular Meredith right-of-way issue had to come to you separately.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Thanks.
Along those same lines so to the west of, with Urbandale to the north and Grimes to the south, do we own the north half of the road and they own the south, or?
It's, well, as called out here in the note, it's actually, the city owns it, it was just in the city of Grimes.
But, like,
So-
I'm talking to the, west of
Oh, so this area in
yes.
here? I'm trying to remember how that is divided up. Kristen, do you remember? I think that's right.
But yeah, I think the municipal boundary goes down the middle.
Generally, that's how that works, yes.
Okay, any further questions? We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery.
Second.
Second by Rosendahl. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Resolution.
Motion to approve resolution 242-2025.
Motion by Rosendahl.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6.2 is a public hearing to consider the Schaefer property amendment to the comprehensive plan. The public notice for this was published in the August 8, 2025 Des Moines Register. I ask for any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Steve?
Okay, so this is the amendment to the comp plan portion of this. City staff for several years has been talking to Ed Schaefer, one of the siblings up here of this property, for many, many years. And Ed has always said that they intended to come into Urbandale, wanted to come into Urbandale. And now with what's going on with Des Moines Christian to the south, they felt that this was the time to do it. So, but they also recognize, I think rightly so, that now with Des Moines Christian buying almost 100 acres on the south side of Meredith, that does kind of change how things are going to happen in that particular area. So, the thinking at the time that the comprehensive plan was adopted in December of 23, we were thinking that this Schaefer property would be the logical place to start moving from the non-residential development that R&R is doing on this property here adjacent to the east that Ed Schaefer sold them several years ago. This would be the place to start that residential transition or into residential development. But now with Des Moines Christian going down here and the realities of how and when that's going to bring people to the area to take care of everything that happens with schools and different activities that go there, I think it probably, as I put in the report, it seems reasonable to consider what new land development patterns and character in that immediate area is going to look like. So, and as you probably saw in the P&Z minutes, this is really an exercise of, in the current comp plan, this is residential uses, but there's probably going to be a need for some commercial activity with frontage out here on Douglas just to support all that traffic and the people coming and going. So as I said at P&Z, we don't know, but if I had to guess, I would say when this is all said and done, this is going to end up being a bunch of mixed uses in here, which the new comp plan does talk quite a bit more about that than we used to do. If I had to guess, there may be a few residential support services up here in front. with some other types of businesses, maybe a couple of small offices, and some residential on this parcel when it's all said and done. And I think there's an opportunity to probably do that and have that make sense with the realistic impacts of what Des Moines Christian buying their 100 acres is gonna do, so.
I would
plan-
venture to guess it would be an orthodontist and a physical therapist office.
It could very well be. That would be a wise play, I think. So I would be happy to answer any questions. Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of making this change to the comp plan. As far as how many acres of what, we don't know at this point. They will have to come back to do a rezoning at that point, and we can certainly discuss those more specific issues at that time. So be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Steve. Any other questions or comments before we turn it over? This item is also a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Kroll, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to amend the comprehensive plan for the Schaefer property.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 6.3 is a public hearing to consider ordinance 2025-16. The public notice for this was published in the August 6, 2025 Des Moines Register. Ask any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Steve?
Okay, so another reference to the comp plan, when that was adopted in 2023, environmental stewardship was one of the three overreaching themes throughout that particular document. And one of the things specifically discussed in the plan is the reduction of impervious surfaces and the use of permeable pavement in the chapters that discuss housing and stormwater management. So that, in conjunction with some of the strategies that council has adopted, it makes sense at this point to go ahead and move forward with a change in the zoning code. Right now, it only allows two different types of pavements, which would be asphalt or concrete. And so I provided the language to you that would make a change to that code to allow those two pavement systems, but then would also allow permeable pavement systems to be used. And they can also be used to meet stormwater retention requirements if they wanted to go through those particular recommendations that are part of the Iowa Stormwater Management Manual recommendations. So Planning and Zoning Commission also recommends approval of this item and would be happy to answer questions.
All right.
I just want to say this is great. Thanks.
When it comes to using permeable pavement systems, is that, like, the idea there would be that a detention area, like an explicit detention dry or wet pond, would be kind of incorporate, that would be done away with in favor of a permeable system that could,
That's probably not a
Retain
Kristen.
that.
This is probably, come on up, I'm gonna turn it over to the engineer that knows
All right.
more about this stuff than I do.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. It could be used as part of their detention requirements. You're never going to get the storage volume you need just from permeable pavers to replace the other detention. It could particularly help for water quality portion with some filtering aspects. It does require some additional maintenance to make sure it continues functioning in that manner. So it'll be interesting to see if people incorporate that into their design or if they just use it more for kind of aesthetics and the looks and to know they get a benefit without counting it as part of their actual calculations. So I'm interested to see how that turns out.
do we have like a set of recommendations as far as like how it might help them in some of their applications?
So when they redid the Iowa Stormwater Management Manual a number of years ago, the whole idea of that was to provide a wide palette of tools for folks to use to meet the needs of their site for detention. So permeable pavers is one of those tools. We wouldn't necessarily provide our own recommendations. At the moment, we allow anything that's in the, we call it ISWIM, anything that's in ISWIM can be used. So developers and designers can choose what best fits their site.
Sounds good, thanks.
There definitely is, I would say, an aesthetic component to this too. Concrete and asphalt are kind of boring. You can stamp concrete, put patterns in it and things, but there's a whole lot more options and colors with these pavers too. So it would not surprise me if some people want to do it just for the aesthetic value of it, if nothing else.
How will developers, I mean, assuming this is mostly for new development, how will they know that this is now an option that they could?
I think that's something that'd be pretty easy for us to just kind of put some sort of an email out to the ones that we work with a lot. Now, it certainly could be, if I know from when I worked in the Louisville, Kentucky area, it was pretty popular down there in a couple of neighborhoods. When they had to redo their original concrete driveways, they would go back and put these pavers in, again, just for the aesthetic value, if nothing else. So it could certainly apply to situations like that as well. But yeah, we can figure out a way to reach out to developers to let them
I think
know.
that would be a great
Yeah,
idea.
Yeah, we can certainly do that and work with Derek to get it on our website and make sure we get it pushed out there.
Awesome.
Right. We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So move.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
I'll move approval of ordinance, I guess,
That passes.
sorry. I'll move approval of ordinance 2025-16.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Moving on, then item 6.4 is to consider, as a public hearing to consider the bids for the bank stabilization improvements for Walnut Creek. The public notice for this was published in the August 1, 2025 Des Moines Register. Ashley, any objections to that notice is published?
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And to introduce this is our Assistant Director of Engineering, Kristen Brostrom. Kristen?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. This item and the next one kind of go together. We designed and bid these projects together, and they're designed very similarly. So I'm going to kind of talk a lot in the first one and hopefully not so much in the second one. So we are starting out with Walnut Creek, but a lot of this applies to both projects. So just a quick overview on how we design our annual channel improvements or choose them. We have the stormwater report. It was actually started in 1999, and we do update that annually. Each year, we walk about a quarter of our creeks, and we look at their condition. We look at what's changed. We particularly look at impacts to neighboring infrastructure, such as trails, storm sewer, sanitary sewer, playgrounds, that sort of thing. The summer interns help us with that, which helps because we do cover a lot of ground with that. And we do save photographs from year to year and ratings on our notes so we can look back on it. We incorporate those areas that are kind of flagged for some concerns and some possible work into a 3-year plan. Traditionally, we have very much focused on those areas that are impacting infrastructure. Last year's project, we were getting close to a sanitary sewer, so that was part of that project, or close to trails. We've had a number of projects where we've got steep banks next to trails. We've got a couple areas we still need to address, but we're somewhat caught up on those major concerns. And so now we're looking at areas that have erosion issues that if we don't address it, they'll just continue to get worse. Our upcoming project that's currently under design is also focusing on floodplain restoration and flood storage. So we're looking at doing those sorts of projects coming up as well. Since 1999, when we started the report, we spent about $5.5 million. We have ramped that up in the last few years. The last couple of projects have been major, and that's also partly due to doing some smaller projects in the past that we had some additional funds to pull forward, but the last 2 projects have been just over $1 million. So this project was designed by JEO Consulting Group. For these larger projects, we have to do DNR and Army Corps permitting, and so it's nice to have a consultant that can handle the modeling for that if needed. The stabilization practices we've been using recently include bendway weirs, longitudinal peaked stone toe protection, try saying that 5 times fast, toe armoring. We always try to look at the outfalls and protect those energy dissipation at the stormwater outfalls. riprap keys, and slope armoring. And those are a lot of fancy terms to basically mean we try to stabilize the bottom of the slopes and provide some resistance against that erosive force of water, that low flow water. It also helps build up some sediment behind those practices, so you kind of have a little bench, focuses the low flow energy towards the middle of the creek, and that gives you some resiliency for those high flows that we try not to armor the entire bank. We don't want to rip wrap all the way up, but if we can stabilize the bottom of it, that helps the whole slope get stabilized. We also try to remove debris from the creek as we do these projects. We have trees that come and go through the creek, and so we try to catch those with these projects. So just a quick look, these are a couple of examples of Walnut Creek. Those are the vertical banks that we're trying to address, and we don't flatten them out entirely, but we provide some of that, again, that toe armoring and help stabilize that slope. So on Wednesday, August 6th, we opened bids for this project. We did have a total of 7 bids. Nagel Construction was the low bidder at $192,586. We are recommending approval of that low bid. It is about 30% lower than the engineer's estimate. We like to schedule these for winter work if possible. It's also within the window for removing trees for bat habitat. So we're aiming for the work to be completed by May 22nd of next year. And Nagel Construction has done a couple of these for us. They did our North Walnut Creek Bank Stabilization Project, which is about a $500,000 project a couple years ago, and then our smaller outfalls repair that was last year. And the project location. So the Walnut Creek location is south of Douglas, and it's kind of on either side of Northwest or 142nd Street in that corridor. So, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions for Kristen on this?
One thing I was just thinking about, is this in the vicinity of the trunks that we're going to be talking about later?
The WRA trunk sewer, yes, yeah, it's kind of in that same area, and we've looked at those plans, and they shouldn't be on top of each other for this project.
Sounds good.
When you're looking at areas to stabilize, is this kind of a you know it when you see it thing, or is there more specific criteria that you're looking at?
Sometimes we've got quite a few areas with these vertical banks like this, and so sometimes it's a matter of, you know, we've got 5 or 6 areas on the list we need to do. We also look at what other projects are in the area. Like we had the Grimes and the Waukee trunk sewers. Really didn't want to go back into that area right away with a bank stabilization project, give those folks a bit of a break from construction. So we try to kind of coordinate with other stuff. So again, we've got probably 5 or 6 areas we can look at next, and we try to coordinate that with other projects.
Thank you.
All right, we're in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So move.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 236-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 237-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. I go through, right? There we go. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 238-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
I keep pushing the button.
That passes. Item 6.5 is a public hearing to consider the bids for the bank stabilization improvements for Gulfview Creek. This was also published in the August 1, 2025 Des Moines Register. Ask any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Bodie. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Kristen?
Okay, again, this project is very similar to the last one. This will be in Gulfview Park. This project was also designed by JEO Consulting Group. We're again using some longitudinal peak stone toe protection, toe armoring, and outlet protection and slope armoring on this project. We also have a number of trees in this area that are either dying or are very close to falling into the creek and causing future problems. So we're removing a few trees. Most of the trees, we're actually looking at cutting off about 3 foot above the stump, and we've been working with Parks Department on this. The goal of that is both to leave the stump behind to provide some natural habitat in the parkland, and so that the stumps themselves aren't disturbed, which disturbs the bank, of course, and can cause additional erosion. So we haven't done this practice yet in Urbandale, but it's been done a number of other places, and we're interested to see how it works. We've also talked with Parks about doing some education maybe of the folks nearby to let them know what we're doing and why, since we haven't really seen this practice before. And again, we have some areas with debris that need to be removed from the channel. Gulfview Creek is a much smaller waterway than Walnut Creek. Gulfview Creek feeds into North Walnut Creek, which in turn feeds into Walnut Creek. And so this is a much smaller scale, a much smaller channel. A couple of examples here. So you can see on the left, that's a tree that's been significantly undermined, and you can see most of its root balls exposed from the creek. The one on the right has fallen in some time ago, and you can see how it kind of takes the bank with it. So we're looking at a combination of efforts to minimize the chance of that continuing to happen in this creek. We've also got a number of areas where we need to just do some cleanup to provide some water flow. Again, keep that water energy in the middle of the channel rather than letting it go wherever it wants. So again, we opened bids on Wednesday, August 6th. We had 5 bids on this project. The low bidder again was Nago Construction with a bid of $341,880. We are recommending approval of the low bid. It was about 43% lower than the engineer's estimate, and again, we're targeting that completion date of late May. And just to look at the project area, we're going from 100th Street all the way around to Aurora Avenue on Gulfview Creek. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I was wondering if you had any thoughts about what you think is actually causing that relatively extreme erosion for kind of a small tributary like that.
Yeah, it's a good question. Streams change over time. You know, things wiggle and evolve, and it has been increased runoff upstream. I mean, obviously the area to the west was developed a number of years ago, so that flow's been coming for a while. And I think it's just over time, you know, the channel is adapting to handle that. So hopefully this project will help provide it a little more resiliency for the future.
Are the trails going to stay open during that time, or?
We are hoping they will stay open most of the time. We'll need to work with the contractor. I think we put a limit of 2 weeks for closure in the plans. I'll have to review our notes on that. There are some areas where there will be some impacts to the trail. We know the trail will get damaged, and we've done that before. So we build it into the plans that we know the trail will be damaged and they have to replace it. But the goal would be to keep the trail open as much as possible. We know that this is a very much used path.
I was wondering where exactly this was going to be, because there's a couple really large limbs that are down. It looks like they were maybe damaged in a storm just up toward Meredith, Jan, or Christmas, I don't know. There's some huge trees that are down there that may be blocking the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, up there.
Yeah, and I know Parks, has been working on that large one that went down. So we did a project a couple of years ago to take out a lot of stuff along Meredith, from Meredith to Aurora. That's the joy of these projects, is the trees keep coming down.
Yeah.
Water keeps flowing. So it's an ongoing process. It's never like one and done, but we try to do projects that will give us some 15 to 20 years of resiliency.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Any other questions on this from the council? We're in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 233-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve Resolution 234-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. Vote on that one, so that passes.
And motion to approve Resolution 235-2025.
Motion by Bodie,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, that moves on to planning and zoning items. We have one, item 7.1, the Timberline Village Plat 2 preliminary plat at 138th Street and Quail Ridge Drive. Steve?
This is a plat that was originally came through 4 years ago, and at that time, for a variety of reasons, they decided not to move forward with it, but they are back with it again. In terms of location, this is east of Quail Ridge, and or excuse me, it's an extension of Quail Ridge Drive, and then just east of 138th Street. So these are the existing lots that are there, have been there for many years. 138th Street, Quail Ridge Drive stops right there. So this will just be a short extension of a cul-de-sac into this area. Because of the grades through here, wouldn't make sense to go over that. So there would be a cul-de-sac here, 8 total lots that are proposed, which was the same from 4 years ago. It's almost identical to what was approved in January of 2021. It is zoned R1S. However, most of the lots are generally about 100 feet wide. So these are very large lots. We'll probably have very large homes on them. Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval, subject to items noted. Would be happy to answer questions. Oh, and I was going to point out real quick, there was a question about trees, and you probably saw some conversation in the P&Z minutes from the rezoning. I will say, if you look at the aerial photograph, which here, let me go back up, you can see just that cleared area right there in the area that we're talking about. That was cleared several years ago. So the majority of the area of trees that would come out has already been removed. If you look at this grading plan, anytime that you can see any of these proposed contours, that tells you those trees are going to come out. This is Outlot Z, so this is a detention basin that you can see right there. Another one right back here. But there are some trees that will be able to remain up here in this corner, some trees that will be able to remain down here. And Tom Whitman is here from NAP, and I think you probably saw his comments at P&Z that any place they can keep a tree, they're going to, because that adds value to the lot. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Any questions? If not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve Council Letter 8265.
Motion by Kroll.
Second.
Second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Moving on to item 8, regular agenda items. First is item 8.1, and that's to consider the Iowa Reinvestment Act amendment request for the Merle Hay Reinvestment District. And to introduce this is our Economic Development Director, Aaron DeYoung. Aaron?
Great, thank you, Mayor, City Council. Aaron DeYoung with the Economic Development Department. Here to bring back the IRA amendment. Last time we talked about this was in April. And so with this presentation, I want to do 3 things. Talk about where we've been, talk about what the action is today, and then talk about what's next to be able to understand, because this has been a long multi-year project. So to get a good frame of reference for this and for the actions that will be forthcoming should you approve this tonight. And then it will move over to the 28E, the official applicant for the entity with the state. So Our final application was approved in April of 2022 with the state for the 4-sheet hockey complex with the Des Moines Buccaneers was going to be in there. And then we formed the 2080 entity, and the state has awarded a $26.5 million future sales tax and lodging tax award for this project. So, you know, this project, I went back in the files, at least it started for me in October of 2019. I know there's a few conversations before that, but we've been working on this since 2019. And then in February 21, we submitted the preliminary IRA plan to the Economic Development Authority after the legislation was approved, 15J, for this program to have the second round of it. And then April of 2022, the IEDA approved the IRA plan, its original version, which had the 4-sheet hockey complex, the hotel, and the retail improvements. July of 2022, we did go for an extension of some of the conditions subsequent to be able to meet those and have additional time to extend those, and that was approved. In June of 2024, this is when we got the letter from the Des Moines Buccaneers saying that they were going to be ending discussions to go into Merle Hay Mall, and so the next phase of this began in earnest with that. Now to April of 2025, when we met last, this was to have each of the Des Moines and Urbandale City Councils review the amendment for the 28E group to submit to the board. And this was to make some changes, and these changes have not changed from the scope of work. So to have a multi-use arena rather than the 4-sheet hockey complex, incorporate a volleyball facility for practice and competitions. Dinks Pickleball has not been a part of the plan according with the state, so incorporating that, because that is a completed project or it's halfway done. There's still room for Dinks to expand at the facility. And in that amendment in April, we utilized previous sales estimations that we had based on the hockey scope of work to show the sales tax performance given these changes. After we submitted that in April, we did have a meeting with the state, with their staff, and they did request that we do a sales analysis, an updated one with the new scope of work. So that is when we went to proposal to you in May to hire AECom to do that sales analysis. And so you received that 2 weeks ago. And so we have incorporated those figures into this amendment. And so tonight we are here to have this amendment come for your review. So with the changes in this amendment, which is very similar to the April one, is the adjustment in the scope of projects. None of that has changed. That made it really easy to update this amendment for me because nothing changed. We're still going to have the arena, the volleyball facility, and then Dinks Pickleball are the main changes there. But a lot of unchanged projects, as we talked about in April. The campus hotel is still incorporated. The Kohl's relocation, which was completed, we all know that. New retail north of Kohl's, because there still is a vacant parcel there for development. And then the development along Merle Hay with the credit union, and then improvements inside the mall for all the retailer investments to come with the investments that we're talking about. Also in this amendment request is to change some of the condition subsequent dates. So March 31st of 2026 to have the capital sources identified for the state by then. Have a hotel developer, because this is another condition that's been with the plan since the beginning, to find one by the end of 2027, and then the financing completed by the end of 28. And then there was another condition that we are requesting to be removed, which is the redevelopment of Merle Hay Tower into housing. That's been a long project, and we've have wanted to request to have that not be a condition given the sales tax things. Okay, so the updated sales analysis by AECom was incorporated into this amendment. We finished that at the end of July or last month, and this was based on the new scope of work, as I mentioned before. Incremental sales is what this whole award is about. Creating new sales tax for the state within our 75 acres at Merle Hay Mall over a 20-year period. And so, in looking at the new scope with the mixed-use arena, the volleyball, Dinks Pickleball, and then the retail to come with that, their professional opinion is to have they're estimating $1.6 billion of incremental sales at the campus over 20 years, which is a lot. Is not as much as what was originally in our IRA plan, but still significant, and significant enough to be almost $64 million of sales tax rebates, which could be earned over that 20-year period, given the 4% rebate that the state's award is based on. So we have an award on the books right now for 26.5. Future, if these estimations do prove out, we could earn up to 64 million. So we would be earning, 3 times as much for the rebates than what the award to the district is that we would leverage for the construction. Make sense?
You lost me right there. So we
Sorry.
could
Yeah, I
earn.
started to fumble. I'm
We
like, oh
could
no, I'm not doing
earn,
this right.
like, we could get more money back than they're
No,
asking, or
it's
you're
capped at
ju-
$26.5
Okay.
million, but we wanted to show
I
that.
got really
yeah,
excited
the state
there.
is interested in seeing more sales tax
Okay.
coming inside these projects than what they're
Okay.
giving out in incentives.
But it's not as much as we thought originally.
Yes, the numbers were larger at the original.
Okay, all right, but since the cap was 26.5, it doesn't really affect our ask,
No.
Okay.
Well,
our ask of the state.
yes, we are still requesting the 26.5 because we can't earn it and
Okay.
then some.
Okay,
Certainly, yes, that is unwavering, and that we would want
Okay.
to still have the same allocation, even with the change in scope of work.
okay.
What's the likelihood that we will be asked to drop off things like the hotel in addition to this development as it moves forward?
Drop off.
Like, the original towers was supposed to be developed, and now we're asking for that to be removed. What's the likelihood we're gonna get an ask to have other things removed as this continues to progress?
Well, we're the one asking for it to be removed, not the state.
And that's not from the developer? It's not from Liz and her crew asking it to be removed?
Well, it is, let's go back. The Merle Hay Tower is the fourth condition in our current award with the state. And that is a condition in that the project needs to perform a housing project on Merle Hay Tower for it to not be in violation of the agreement of the rebates. It was always a long ways out, but to have that condition still be placed on this project and could create the challenge of having the state pull back the award later once things start going. We would like to have the certainty that if we perform this, which we feel we can do absolutely, and given the timeframes, that we shouldn't be having that hanging over our head. And if we don't do Merle Hay Tower, everything goes bad. That would be bad. So we're requesting it to be removed because it's the most uncertain of all the conditions that are on the books.
But we're not giving up on it, right?
No, absolutely not. No. I think Liz and I can definitely agree on that. Yeah.
So I was watching the news last night, and you were on, and then the commentary afterwards was that you had concerns about this report. So I'm kind of wondering if that was true, and if we could hear about that, if that is true, that the report wasn't as pleasing. Is that simply because the revenues weren't as high, or?
Well, we did have a communication in your consent agenda about Liz's letter that was provided to the mayor, so we had that, so you can receive and file that. AECom was our economist to be able to do this, and walking through the assumptions that they made, which, yes, are different than what Liz's assumptions are for this. So not to try and jump into the details, because I'll definitely not do a great job of that, related to why decisions were made on those things. So it's...
Well, it sounds like I missed a letter, but I want you to know I read all 73 pages of that report, so I'm surprised I missed the letter. So anyway, it sounds like I missed a letter that maybe I need to go back and look at. All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Is this amendment, like, is that letter basically gonna be included in the amendment? Or is that kind of a separate matter? I didn't know how that worked.
The 2080 is not intending to, are you talking about Liz, that Liz's letter that was?
Yeah, well, because there was the estimate from the mall and there was the estimate from AECom, and there were differences in those. And so is the amendment to IEDA going to include both of those estimates, or is it the AECom that's kind of what this amendment is based on?
I can't speak for Liz, and certainly this can come up. From the 2080 perspective, we met with the state and they requested that the 2080 in Urbandale is the lead entity on this. We did the study, it was requested to have Urbandale do a study.
Gotcha.
And provide that to the state. So that's what we are doing.
Okay, sounds good.
So if Liz, I think Liz might be providing that to the state as well, and that they would have the information as well.
Gotcha. So this is that, we've provided them the estimate from AECom.
Yes.
This is the amendment. Those are two kind of separate things.
The state requested that the results of the study be incorporated into our amendment.
Okay.
So they are going together.
Okay, that
Yes.
sounds good.
Back half of the 73 pages.
Been busy, yeah. Okay, next steps. So this is just one part of the action of what is to be probably more actions in the future. So I want to make sure that you understand, as well as our residents understand kind of what is next, given these things. So next step is, there's a baby like 0.5, is that tomorrow the 2080 entity will be meeting to officially approve it to go to the state. So one of the requirements in that 2080 agreement is for each of the councils to see it. Des Moines saw it yesterday. You're seeing it today. So with that, this will go to the state and it will be for them to review and make a determination on our award, whether to do that. We're expecting it to be at the September IEDA meeting, but it could be later. So that's why I say potentially. So what we believe, there are 3 bullets here to make you aware of. One is the state or the IEDA board could approve or deny those changes in the scope of work. So they might feel that, no, we still want you to do a 4-sheet hockey complex, and that's what our award was, so that's what you shall do. That we're not expecting that. We've talked about the changes in scope. The second is to either affirm the $26.5 million allocation, given that change of scope of work, change that allocation, or remove it entirely. We don't know. That's the full scope of what they could do. We are absolutely asking for the allocation to stay the same. We can earn it. We've shown it in the studies, but that is ultimately the board's decision at that time. And then the third thing is to approve or deny or make changes to those conditions subsequent. So the scope of work that we've got to achieve and the steps to get to that, the proving out the capital sources, the timing of construction, the finding the developer, that's kind of the next, another part of their decision that they need to make. So once they do that, be at one of these meetings, because they will make a decision, we will move on to the phase of the due diligence and proving out the committed financing in concert with Liz Holland and her group at the mall. So that would be working through all of that. Part of that due diligence, and we submitted a letter in the April, and we will do it again, kind of stating out the multiple steps that we have believe need to happen to go through that process of determining the viability of the municipal bond part, so we understand the risk profile for that. And here's a list of that. I won't go through it. Then certainly we need to finalize those capital sources, show that to the state that this project is there, and then on to start construction. So those are some big swings as to those steps, but those are the next steps we envision for this once the IEDA makes their determination.
Can you go back one slide?
Absolutely.
So, can you talk more about number 2? I mean, you talked about it in due diligence in number 3, but what is?
Well, there's two components that
if we meet the due diligence, what does municipal bond and TIF funding possibly look like?
Yeah, so since the beginning, we have envisioned as a part of the local component to this we remember that the $26.5 million allocation is a rebate of future sales tax collections. So it's not upfront money. It's not a grant. It's not cash from the state to do this. This is the commitment of future sales tax proceeds needs to be brought forward with a debt instrument to make the construction funding available to pay the contractors and buy the materials and all that kind of stuff. We've always envisioned that to be a municipal bond that is done by the city of Urbandale for that. So all that due diligence is to make sure that we understand what that risk profile is before we make a determination on whether we're going to sell a bond or not. The second part is also a tax increment financing. In there is about $3.5 million of tax rebates that we have currently in the plan. That would be the second component of the city of Urbandale's part of the financing. That does not pay for the whole construction of the arena, the improvements to the mall, the outside the mall, and the tenant improvements for retailers and that type of thing. That would be on Liz's side of that part. But certainly it's a big part of it is having this local side of it.
Aaron, the amount that we would raise from the sale of a bond would not necessarily be the full 26.5 million, correct?
No, absolutely not. It would be something less than that. The duration of how much it takes to collect those and the interest rate all determine how much the par value of that debt instrument would be. We're estimating between $16 and $20 million. But it's all going to be the rate environment and the amount of the payment schedule that would be committed to.
And with this municipal bond, this is something that council would vote on. This isn't something we would have to bring for referendum.
That's a great question. I do not know. I don't believe so, but.
I can get you the answer.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
That was the end of my presentation.
It was very good.
Well, it's been a long project. There's things I've forgotten, I'm certain of, so, thank you. And certainly Liz Holland is here in the room to be able to talk about it from their perspective. We've been meeting with Liz weekly for 6 years. So we know Liz very well and are happy that she's working through this project.
Any further questions for Curtis? Sorry, Aaron.
We do look alike, I know.
And Curtis.
Oh, thank you to Curtis and Aaron for all the work you've done on this and
Curtis, you started this
the
project.
persistence.
Heck of a good job.
I'm sorry, for Aaron. Or Curtis.
One of you guys, yeah.
One of you guys.
I will say, I had some conversations with parents of volleyball kids and now adults, and they were very excited and said this is definitely a niche that needs filled, and they would love to see that filled in Urbandale. So that was positive feedback from someone who doesn't always give positive feedback. So that was also how about that? So.
Well, it's fitting with other things that are going on there. I mean, I've been at Merlehay Mall more than probably anybody with Kids Empire. Yeah, not just winter time either. Now with 100 degrees outside, we've done the indoor thing too.
And Liz, thank you for being here tonight. I know, again, just maybe to summarize, Pat, your point on the study and Liz's letter and comments. I mean, we may have a difference of how to look at that, but I think we're all united in this, that we want a successful project, and we're working very hard, both from the mall standpoint, Polk County, Urbandale, and Des Moines, to make sure this is a successful project. So we want to make sure it's successful, but we want it to be, defendable and to work to make sure it's going to be a success overall. So thanks for hanging in there with us, Liz, and we want to get this across the goal line. So
Thanks, Mayor. That's good.
Move to approve council letter 8262.
Second.
motion by Kroll, second by Cacciatore. Discussion. Please vote.
I'll pop it up.
Did I?
Uh-oh, we slept too long.
There we go.
We need to figure out the optimum amount of time, and that determines how long our speech is. Presentations.
That passes. All right, thank you. Thanks, Aaron and Curtis both. Thanks, staff. And Liz, thank you again. We're excited about this, and let's work to get it across the goal line, as we said. So thank you, everybody. Item 8.2 is to consider the preventative maintenance program agreement for the Woodman Controls Company, and Jan, answer any questions if there are.
Motion to approve resolution 232-2025.
Motion by Rosendahl,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.3 is consider the professional services agreement for Fire Station 42 interior renovations, and to introduce this is our Assistant Parks Rec Director, Scott Hoke. Scott?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Here to talk a little bit about the interior renovations at Fire 42. The remodel plan includes 3 specific areas within the building. The first is the existing conference room to provide some dedicated office space and sleeping quarters for the position of battalion chief. So I think that is right here. And then the existing study area in the dorm room up here will be converted into the station for the lieutenant office and sleeping quarters. And then within the main office, that'll be remodeled so we can move the fire marshal down into Fire 42 from Fire 41. It will really just be moving the front desk and then creating an office behind that front desk is the plan for those 3 spots. So all interior, nothing outside that people would see unless they came into the fire station. A total of 8 bids submitted proposals for this. Then they were evaluated by a multi-department team, including parks, facilities, and then 2 from fire. Chief was there along with one of his staff that was very involved in this process as we've been working through it. They were evaluated on 5 different categories. They're all weighted categories, so some might have a little bit more of an impact than the others. Of course, the overall presentation of what we saw, what we got from the companies, also weighted them on the firm's understanding of the project and how they kind of explained it back to us from what they saw would be the work experience of their key personnel, what type of experience that they had, their fee structure was weighted, and then the ability to complete it in a timely manner based on the information that they presented to us were the categories that we looked at. There is the list of the firms that submitted, all very qualified firms, and all did a great job on their submittals. But based on the review of the proposals, it's recommended that SVPA Architects be selected for the project, and in the amount of $41,115, which is almost about in the middle of the presentations. They weren't the lowest, they weren't the highest. And then it's anticipated for construction to occur in the fall of 2025, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
So this isn't that big of a project if they're gonna do construction yet this year?
Yeah, they kind of have some preliminary thought out too, and it's interior. There'll be some changing of a little bit of electrical and HVAC, but this isn't, again, a major rehaul, so they'll be able to move pretty quickly on this one. That's always the goal. Let me just preface that, so.
Move approval of Council Letter 8257.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Cacciatore. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Moving on to item 9, and that's to consider, we're gonna have a special topic regarding the Urbandale Water Utilities ASR project, and to introduce us is the Director of the Urbandale Water Utility, Neil Weiss. Neil?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. I want to take some time here to have a little discussion and update you all on the ASR project, or Aquifer Storage and Recovery well project that we've been working on for the past several months. So earlier this year, we did meet during that lunch and learn, and we talked a little bit about this project, but certainly some things have happened since then. So you've all seen this image on the left of the screen several times now, but just to give you a reminder, this ASR project, what it does is it will inject treated water that we purchase from Central Waterworks down into the Jordan Aquifer, which is nearly 2,700 feet down in the ground. And during the summer months when the peaks are very high, and the demand is there, we'll extract that water out to our distribution system. So since we met earlier this year, some of the things that we've accomplished, we have received our water use permit from the Iowa DNR. That was certainly a significant step. You know, there was a lot of water modeling, groundwater modeling involved in that effort. We did go through a formal approval process with Central Iowa Water Works, and it has been approved by that board. And we did secure a loan from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for a planning and design loan. So just a quick reminder on the benefits. There are several benefits, both locally and as a region. This will certainly provide resiliency to Urbandale's water system, as well as on a regional basis. It will essentially add 3 million gallons of capacity per day to the regional system, as well as locally here in Urbandale. So this project is proposed to be located at our tower out west at 170th Street at the water tower, just right between Waterford and Meredith. So as you can see in that project map, there is a elementary school directly to the west, Radiant Elementary. There are several housing developments to the west as well, Bentley Ridge to the northwest. Directly north of the project site, there is a housing development where single-family houses are being constructed this summer. And to the east and to the south is currently ag ground. So to the right is a preliminary site plan that was completed during our preliminary engineering report. Once this project is complete, residents will not really notice that there's a well there on that site. There will be a well head that's not very visible to the public, directly east of the water tower. And there will be a building that will house well pumps, some of the electrical components. There'll be a laboratory in there for water quality testing as well. But that'll be what will be visible to the public. So during construction, there will not be any disruption of water service to the public. However, during the drilling operation of this project, there will be some noise associated with that operation. So when the contractor arrives on site and starts that drilling operation, this process cannot be stopped. And as you can see, the drill bit, the example, there's a picture down on the left. That was actually taken at West Des Moines Water Works. So it's a fairly large diameter hole that they're drilling. Obviously, they're going very deep. So the risk of stopping the drill rig could be a huge loss of infrastructure for the contractor. So that operation has to happen 24/7 for a duration of 3 to 4 months. Oh, wow. If there's no hiccup. So it's a very slow process, steady process. So yeah, that's what's going to happen with that operation. And
Does that include weekends?
Yes, 24/7.
Can't stop.
Yeah.
Because those houses are really close now.
Yes, they are. Yep. So city code, as you can see, no construction noise between 9 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. is the current city code on construction noise. So I want to talk a little bit about what our proposal is for noise mitigation. And our consultant, Strand Engineering, has done several of these ASRs across the state. They've had these noise concerns at many of their different projects. So we're able to point to several projects across the state and locally to come up with a solution that will work for our project and make it successful. So I want to point you to West Des Moines Water Works. They have an ASR project that's currently going on. They actually did the drilling operation several months ago and completed about 2 months ago. So what they did is they put up a sound barrier wall. As you can see, it's fairly tall. It's 32 feet. Consists of steel H-beams placed around the project site. And there's sound attenuation panels then that are attached to all those beams. So this is written in the specifications as a performance spec, so there's certain decibel limits that the contractor will have to meet. And staff actually went out to tour this project. City staff came along as well. And it was actually amazing to see how much noise mitigation there was outside of the wall with this project. West Des Moines Water Works did share They were taking daily reads during the drilling process, and they were anywhere from 30 to 40 decibels limit outside of the wall is what they were getting for reads. So it really does a great job at noise mitigation. As you can see, their project site on that picture on the left is very similar to Urbandale's. There's housing right to the north, right to the west. Valley View Park is right to the east and to the south. So there were certainly noise concerns with this project site with the city council there in West Des Moines. And this solution was very successful in West Des Moines. I did talk to staff at West Des Moines. They didn't receive any complaints as far as noise throughout the project. The only complaints that they did receive were related to some minor construction lighting concerns that were able to be addressed immediately. So this solution also is taking place in Des Moines Waterworks. They're drilling an ASR right now, and they proposed a very similar solution as West Des Moines as well. So on the bottom left there, you can see I just have a graph there showing those different noise levels and what you can relate 30 to 40 decibels, where 40 just being average home noise is what you're seeing, and 30 is almost like a soft music whisper. So it's very low on that decibel scale. So the schedule moving forward for this project, we would like to start design later this year, which design will take a year, so that would go through 2026. And construction wouldn't be until 2027 and 2028. And it's just an estimate at this point, but the well drilling would be from May to August in 2027 is what we're currently estimating based on our schedule. So this component of noise is certainly a very critical aspect in the project. If we can't propose a solution that will work for everyone, this project could essentially not happen, because it's not a possibility to start and stop the drilling process. So I think on behalf of Bourbondale Water, we know that the residents, think of the water utility as a department of the city. We want to obviously be doing what's best to make a project successful. We want to, be good neighbors during construction and after construction. We feel that this solution is certainly going to accomplish that. So the next steps, since this is such a critical aspect of the project, before signing a $1.5 million design contract with a consultant, we would like to request a noise variance, which we're not requesting that tonight, but we'd like to come back at a future meeting and certainly provide any other information that you'd like to see in making that request. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there a vibration issue with this at all?
No, vibration is not much of a concern. You're so far under the earth for most of the time that's just dissipated.
Yeah, how much per day? I was trying to think, do the math real quick about it.
Yeah, I know West Des Moines did have a little bit of issues during their drilling process, so it did extend out a little further. But yeah, I don't know how much per day that's.
And I don't know much about this. So where's the soil go?
So a lot of those spoils, down to a certain level, they'll just be pushed off to the side of the hole itself. So, the hole that they'll drill is a lot larger than the piping that they'll put in after that.
So I am very confident in, your assessments about the noise, but one of my priorities as a council member is to over-communicate with our residents on what we're doing. We had some concerns addressed to us, at the beginning of the meeting. I think it would be appropriate, I don't know what your plan is, but to have public meeting, like at the elementary school, like prior to requesting the noise variance, because
We do have a public meeting in the design contract.
Well, I think before you request the noise variance, I think one of the things that I prioritize is allowing the public to give comment at a point in the process where it can impact the process and not, after the, deal is done. So I guess, I would like to see you, I don't know, because you're right, I think, you are separate, but people see that it's the city. I mean, they just assume it's the city. So I would like to see some public, a public meeting at the elementary school. I mean, we're probably going to get people all freaked out, but I think you did an excellent job of explaining why there's no reason to freak out. But I think it's important that we do it. And we probably would need to have one later, before it starts. But I just think it's really important that we let people know before that noise variance.
Sure, this project is 2.5 years out until they
Yeah.
will start drilling. So I would say that there will be several times once that design contract is started and the consultant is on board that we could have those public meetings. At that time, the consultant will be able to provide a lot more information as well to the public when we have a design contract signed with them.
This is more a question for staff. Is a noise variance something that comes straight to the council, or does that go through one of our boards or commissions?
It was my understanding it was a council decision. I mean, there's certainly some precedent for that previously in terms of waiving that provision explicitly, that the council has done that in the past.
Waiving what, David? I'm sorry.
Waiving the provision of the code dealing with,
got it.
with noise.
Yeah, okay.
So this would be a request to put a variance in for ASR well drilling, or is this saying for this project in particular from the months of this to this, don't worry about it, we know what's going on?
So I can just tell you Chapter 96 includes a noise waiver that's able to be applied for, and it says the council's adopted noise waiver guidelines to enable city staff to review and approve, but I wouldn't discourage a waiver of this length of time coming to council, because if you look at the noise waiver guidelines that we currently have, they appear to be more contained to today's specific events. So that's what I can tell you off the cuff, and we can certainly walk through that process when it comes time.
Yeah, I'd favor it coming before the council for some of the reasons that Bridget was mentioning, which it gives the public just one more chance to weigh in, which I think is a good idea. I was just wondering, Neil, I don't expect you to be a sound expert necessarily, but at these decibel levels, this sounds like something that one would not even be able to hear inside their home, assuming.
I would say that's correct. When we were on site, you could not hear the drilling operation from outside the wall. Actually, the highest sound readings that West Des Moines did record were on the east side of the project next to the pickleball courts. So the pickleball activity was picking up more decibels than the well drilling operation.
You should put pickleball on that decibel reading.
Yeah.
Will the contract include plans for doing the monitoring outside the walls?
Yes, that will either be on the water utility or the consultant. We will have an RPR on site for during the construction.
Okay.
So West Des Moines did take that in-house and do those sound readings themselves daily, but that could be the consultant's RPR services as well.
Okay. Good. Good idea.
I was curious about the 3 million gallon per day that you had talked about. So is that basically allowing us an extra 3 million gallons a day capacity for servicing that area, or are we talking like we're able to fill it up 3 million gallons a day and that's just kind of like off to the side?
So it will be filled up at a slower rate than 3 million gallons per day. That will be spread out over 4, 5, 6 months when we're filling the ASR. When we're extracting that water in the summer months, we anticipate on operating that at 3 million gallons per day. And that will service our entire western distribution system. So we have 2 different zones in our distribution system. Now, that will service that whole western distribution system. We do have a connection to Xenia as well. So essentially, we'll be taking 3 million gallons a day less from Central Iowa Water Works during the summer, so that essentially does add 3 million gallons a day in capacity during those summer months to Central Iowa Water Works, which is extremely important when we have concerns of nitrate and we're doing calculations on what percentage of capacity we're at currently. This adds 3 million gallons a day back to those calculations, which is huge on a regional level.
Gotcha. And
So-
how long will that 3 million gallons day period last if it was just kind of extended out till we drop to zero?
Yeah, typically 90 days, so we would operate that from sometime in July to September 30th. September 30th is typically the cutoff days for ASRs, but you can, get extensions from DNR to extend that out further.
Gotcha.
So had this been available this summer, that would have improved the region's ability to address the crisis that we
Yes,
were
certainly.
facing?
Yes, that would have been 3 million gallons a day in extra capacity for the region.
So it'll have already gone through the nitrate removal system
Yes.
before it gets pumped down there?
Yes, this is all treated water from Central Iowa Water Works. So obviously meeting all those safe drinking water standards. So there'd be no source water nitrate concerns of this water when we're extracting it in the summer. So we will be performing testing on this water when it is coming out of the aquifer, because it's not essentially a bubble that's created down there, it's more displacing the water in the aquifer. So there is some mixing on the outsides of some of that water. So we will test for chlorine residual, pH, things of that nature, and do some chemical adjustment.
But roughly we'll have access to like 270 million gallons over the summer, is what you're saying, without really touching the Jordan aquifer to speak of.
Yes. Yeah, and typically you're not recovering as much as you're putting down there, so you're essentially adding water to the aquifer.
That's cool.
Once construction is completed, are there any noise issues?
No, there will not be any noise issues. All the pumps and equipment, electrical equipment, will be housed indoors in a building on site there.
Will this be a fenced property?
Yes, it is currently fenced and will remain fenced.
Oh, cool. Glad we're getting it done.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Neil?
I don't know if this might just be a general thing. Do we have an update or any news from our federal side on if we're able to get any money for this?
Neil may know more about it than me. It's been extremely quiet on that front, I think, across the board on these kinds of projects because, so no, I haven't heard anything specifically on it from the congressman's office.
All right. Thank you, Neil.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you, Mayor, thank you, Council.
Thank you. Thanks, John, for being here too.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
It's exciting to see it.
All right, moving on then to city manager's report, David.
I'll try to talk quickly, but I had a couple quick things, one medium thing. I don't want to say quick because that would be a lie. But I did want to talk through, in talking with staff about how the strategic planning updates were done in the past. I know, I believe they were just received and filed. And I wanted to talk through a few of the priorities and kind of supplement what we've been talking about in our one-on-ones. And then also open it up that between, if you didn't get a chance to really dive all the way through, I could certainly understand that. There's a lot of information attached to the agenda on the strategic plan, including the plan itself and all the updates and the charts and the colors and the percentages. I personally wouldn't get too wrapped up in the percentages, just because the message we want to convey really is that staff are using this as our guide. These 14 projects that are in the plan are at the front of mind of all of us, and so we're working on advancing all of these to some extent. But I did want to highlight a few. I won't repeat everything that's in the council letter, but I just want to highlight the progress on the downtown plan. And so if we think about the first 6 months of the calendar year, and we think about all the legwork that went into that, obviously, that led up to that, that's a huge I think, success story. That's a generation of work that's yet to come. So it's, I don't know, how do you get to 100% on that particular milestone in our lifetime? Probably won't. But at the end of the day, the council did approve the report, approve the plan, and there's a lot of action items that are moving forward. So I think it's important to acknowledge that. The facilities planning, which is also in one of your 14 items in the strategic plan, the council's authorized hiring an owner's representative. We have been meeting regularly on that. The architect's RFP is being worked on now by the owner's representative. We've really done a lot of legwork on just, triple checking the actual site that was purchased for the police station. The council has authorized the closing on the property for the relocation of the fire station. So there's lots of progress on the facility side. I won't get into all the details. The crisis intervention team for the police department, that's another area where the plan specifically calls out sustain and potentially grow it. So obviously we've hired the staff to be able to carry that out. There's been grant funds identified to get some level of reimbursement for the officer, and then we're working on potentially getting some reimbursement back for the mental health professionals. So, lot significant. That's work in progress. We also have an intergovernmental agreement to share that staff. So I feel like the first 6 months of the year was pretty substantive there in terms of the accomplishments. Also, the Complete Streets plan is specifically called out in the strategic plan. About 3 weeks ago, I forwarded 10 to 20 page report with maps that John Larson sent to try to make sure that the council is, completely comfortable with where we're at with Complete Streets. Obviously, we've got a new CIP coming and an opportunity to share more information. If there's any questions about any of that, we're happy to dive deeper into that. But there's been a lot of progress in terms of access on the website to more information, completely redesigning our, even to the comments earlier, completely redesigning our public input process as we move forward with projects, and not shying away from projects just because they're controversial. I mean, we have to talk about that. So I feel like Complete Streets is in a really good place. But the council let us know if there are concerns with anything in that report, and we can dive deeper. Affordable housing. Now, the plan specifically says develop and implement an affordable housing plan, and we haven't developed and implemented an affordable housing plan because we've been so busy actually doing affordable housing. And so I don't say that in a condescending way. I just say that as a matter of fact that, like, when you think about what's happened in the last 6 months, development agreement with Hubble, grand opening for the View on Hickman, development agreement actually the demolition of the project on Douglas, Iowa Thriving Communities, which kind of technically happened after June 30th, but we're going to take credit for it in the 6 months. And then an RFP that is in process to actually move that forward. I think you'd make that trade all day long, right? You would trade the actual results for a plan. Doesn't mean we won't have a plan somewhere down the road, but we are literally up to our eyeballs in affordable housing work, and that's a good thing, not a complaint.
And I would stop you and argue that we almost have an affordable housing plan thanks to Matt Hauge and the Human Services strategic plan work.
Right.
That was intentionally designed and pulled together to sub as a housing plan.
Right. And no disagreement for me. I would just say I wouldn't pause getting the RFP out on Douglas for any kind of formal adoption of anything, just because I feel like the momentum is there. And then annexation, obviously we've had, even tonight, a lot of discussions, a lot of annexations that have occurred, annexations that are in process, annexations that are soon to be coming to the council. So stay tuned for a little bit more kind of comprehensive look at that and some mapped out results on that. So I feel like for the super majority of all of these strategic planning items, we may have experienced the most robust results over a 6-month period than we can really expect. I know that sounds negative, but I mean, there's been more done. So if there are things in the plan that the council feels left out, and I didn't mention ADUs, which I would count as affordable housing too, and these other things that have kind of organically occurred. So, and lots of things don't really count toward the plan, because even like the SUOP it's 2 things, and we're getting those done, and we're going to bring 2 more, and we've had the work session on strategic priority number 1, which is outside of all of those plans. But if there are things that we need to follow up, either in writing or lunch and learns or work sessions, let us know. And if there are other ways you would like to see the accomplishments or the results of the strategic plan presented, we're all ears on that. We really feel like there's a lot of successes built in and baked in. If we're forgetting something, if we're missing something, let us know, and we can circle back with more details. And there are a lot of irons in the fire, but staff are literally pedaling as fast as they can on every single one of these items, myself included, and the manager's office included. And there's more coming. It just may not be, the next one might be, we got a lot done, but maybe not as much as the last 6 months. I feel like the first 6 months of the year really, or the compilation of all the work that was in process for the prior year before I got here. I'm not trying to take credit for any of that, but the staff are really working hard. So if there are questions, there are concerns, please let us know, because we want it's the council's plan. It's the council's strategic plan. So if there are things that we need to be doing differently, let us know. Also, as far as not tonight, but in another time, we need to have a discussion about what the next steps are. And I've got some ideas on that, but that's for maybe a night where we haven't gone for an hour and a half already.
So by next steps, do you mean the fact that we're due for a new strategic plan this year?
Well, at some point, I think that's up for discussion, and what that looks like in terms of, is that a complete redesign, a complete start, or is it an acknowledgement of where we're at with some very important items on this list and a tweak to the plan? But I do think we need to discuss that at a future meeting, if that's okay.
I was going to ask that or remind you that our process would be to do one at the end of this year or beginning of next year, and that probably makes your head explode.
That's slight exaggeration, but not much. I do think it would be good to get some ideas, some thoughts down on paper and get that out to the council, and then have the council kind of mull over that, different approaches. The other thing too is, we want to be respectful of election cycles too, and that, that can also play a part in the timing of strategic planning. But if things are as they are today, we do have a lot of work that's ahead of us to continue on this path, and the SUOP and the human services and the carryover. So I do think it's worthy of a conversation of, do you want a full-blown, or do you want a hybrid of, we take what we have, we make sure we're all in agreement of what we have done, we're all in agreement of what we need to do, and then we say, okay, what's the capacity to do more under what time frame? I think that's a really helpful piece, is, how much more bandwidth do we have while we're still moving on these other items? So that's,
I just think the summary you just gave us was helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And the second item is just following up on the 5:30 start time that I mentioned a few weeks ago, to see if there were any concerns. I haven't heard any. I have heard, that it would work for some, but I haven't heard that from all. So I don't want to put that on the agenda if somebody's secretly miserable about that. I really don't. It really should be, the full council in agreement that that's going to work for everybody. But we, at some point, will need to make the determination of when we bring it forward, because then that changes public hearings moving forward. So if we bring that forward soon, probably we would start the second meeting in October is about the soonest that would start anyway. We could start at the calendar year if that's preferred, but we need to wrestle it to the ground even if the answer is no for now, just because that way we know when to set our public hearings. And that's all I have tonight.
One quick question on the strat plan. Is the Microsoft Planner for that still being updated, or is that?
Yes. Curtis says yes, so therefore yes.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, David. Amy?
A couple of things. First of all, thank you for the strategic plan update. That's something that we've wanted to see for from the entire time I've been on council, so it's nice to finally have it. I printed it, I've been looking at it, it's exciting stuff. Second, bike lanes, thanks for the quick response to questions that I've had from staff. I appreciate your quick response. I live and breathe and am on these streets daily. But I will say today was the first time I did 70th and Aurora intersection, the four-way stop, with like complete confidence on where everyone was going. And that was amazing. So super excited about that. I have received some comments, as I'm sure we all have, and have from some folks on 70th concerned about parking. I've said, let's get it done. We'll reevaluate, we'll look at it. We can have a conversation if it's a continued issue. I think it will resolve itself. And then I've also had a request to examine the use of the bike lanes and accidents after year one. I said, I think we will all be interested in seeing if accidents reduce after year one.
Parking really doesn't change on the 70th.
It doesn't, and so that's why I'm like, let's just get it done. Like, let's get through the striping and the reconfig, and I think it will resolve itself.
Right.
And I think that it will resolve itself.
Still park there, and it's just a matter of.
It's short term,
Yes.
and then it will be fine. But I think there was some apprehension of this is gonna be long term. So just making you aware, but
All right, thanks, Amy.
I think that's all I have.
All right, Joe?
Yeah, thank you. I've heard some of the same concerns about the Aurora Avenue corridor. I won't repeat what Amy said, other than to, want us to monitor what goes on there, and I want to pay attention to the flow when school starts, see how everything works out. I think it's going to work just fine, but I guess we'll see when school starts, what the outcome is. I attended the National Night Out event, which was awesome. Mr. Mayor, there is absolutely no shame in losing to Chief Johansson in an eating contest. I think he is genetically predisposed to eating more donuts than you. So.
And I think Joe is
No.
volunteering.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. No, really great event, very well attended. I think all the council members and mayor were all there, so.
Yep.
Good turnout. Also attended the Party in the Park, saw Pat Bodie there, and that was a nice event. It was during State Fair, so not as well as attended as the previous Party in the Park, but I thought it was still a very nice event. Is there not a restroom at Lakeview Park?
Jan, is there one that? Dan, Scott?
We actually have in the budget for July 1 to put in a restroom. We have the concrete pad poured and everything set, but it will be not by the shelter at Lakeview, because a lot of time, all the time with portable restrooms, you need access with the truck. So it will be just on the playground, just north of the Lakeview Pond, but that is all set. And I'm happy to explain afterwards or now as well of some of the other answers to the residents' questions that my staff has shared with me in the interim of the meeting. So, thanks.
Well, I don't know if we can communicate that to the resident who had the concerns, but I'd like her to know that we heard her and we're putting in a restroom.
Yeah.
Just because you came, I'm kidding. We were gonna do it anyway, I understand.
I'll follow up with her. I'll plan to follow up with her.
Other than that, I was happy to see Liz Holland here, and just want to send a message that Bob's already sent, that, we're supportive, and I know everyone views that as an important piece for Urbandale. That's all I've got.
All right, thanks, Joe. Blake?
I've been gone for a couple weeks, so I don't have a lot of crazy updates, but did get to spend some time with my family. That was really great. Yesterday, took off from Vancouver. There's a district in Vancouver called Gastown that has some very cool pedestrian bike lane through like a mall type of area. Very cool area there, with a steam-powered clock from like the 1800s or something like that. So if we can just find a steam-powered clock that's hiding in Urbandale that was from the 1800s, like,
Careful, I might have one.
then maybe we can just put that downtown, and then we can have our own kind of Gastown area there. But very fun. Glad to be back and getting to kick off my being back at work with this. Just a note about National Night Out. I really appreciated getting the stickers so that I could run around and talk to folks. I think that was a really good opportunity for us to get in front of the public and get feedback on the city, and had some very good conversations with folks, and generally very positive feedback for the city as well. So I don't think there's anything hyper-specific that people had concerns about. It was all fairly glowing. Last item I have here is, last meeting I had mentioned there was a couple of people who had emailed asking questions and wanting to see some changes with how walking dogs through McDivitt Cemetery area. They wanted to kind of see what changes could be done with that ordinance, and so just wanted to highlight that again for folks. Those 3 emails came through, I think, earlier this month. I did do a little bit of digging around at the Glendale rules. They do allow dogs on the path, on leash, 6 foot, with a requirement to clean up after your dogs, everything like that. So I think that's something that might be worth considering or thinking about, since there were some folks that have written in. So I don't know if we want to have like a formal item on the agenda to kind of discuss that, how we feel about changing things or not changing things. But just wanted to open that one up.
All right. Bridget? Go ahead, David.
Well, I was going to say, from staff standpoint, that I got educated on that when the emails came in. I think that was a council-directed code change, and so we would just say respectfully that we'll change it back if that's what the council wants to do. But it was, it really lean on the council to direct us to change it back, since it was based on specific concerns at one time. So if the council would like to, I would just say it's a little unusual from my experience that you would carve out one location like that for that type of code change. I'm not saying it's unprecedented, but it's a little unusual. But if the council would like to change the code back to the where you just could allow it under normal behavioral circumstances, we stand ready to make that change.
You weren't
I don't
at
have
those
a hard
meetings,
recommendation.
David. The gentleman pulled at our heartstrings very hard. It was very compelling. But I also, I don't know, I see where other folks are coming from.
It's a policy decision at
Yes.
this point.
And I think it's like, even if the end decision is no change, I think it's worth having the conversation, since there has been multiple people that wrote in about it.
All right. Bridget?
Mayor Bob had given me grief at the last meeting for not having much to say about DART. So I forwarded you the Des Moines Register article that was that was online today. Des Moines passed the additional 2.5% franchise fee for public transit last night. Highly recommend that you read the article, and I'm not just trying to ingratiate myself with the author that's in the audience, but they did a good job. Or no, it wasn't you. You wrote the Merle Hay article. It was another, well, just the Register in general. But it was very good. You know, we still have the same council members with significant concerns that are not based in reality in the opinions of DART staff and the member communities. There was an attempt to delay the action for 60 days till we have more information from Reimagine DART, but it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. We need to know that Des Moines is able to meet its financial commitment before we can Reimagine DART. So public input phase of Reimagine DART will start in September. I think I've gotten notice of those meetings, but I'll know more and get it passed along to you. I've got some meetings coming up in the next couple weeks. Could you pull up that website? The Dallas County Board of Supervisors this morning passed, there's one that says Scenario C. Passed this redistricting map, and it has already been submitted to the Board of Supervisors, or not the Board of Supervisors, Secretary of State for their review. So we are in District 5, which is yellow, so it includes the Dallas County portions of Clive, Urbandale, Grimes, and Granger, as well as the rural parts of the Walnut and Grant townships. And then could you, this is available on the Dallas County website. Could you back out to that page? And there's one that says something about a worksheet. I think it's the bottom one. So this also had to be submitted to the state, and this is pretty fascinating. It's like a math worksheet to show like the variation in the district sizes based on what the perfect district size would be, which is the population divided by 5. So I feel like we did a pretty good job. Could you scroll down to the next page? So, I mean, again, it's really more math. So we have to submit the map and this worksheet and the legal descriptions to the Secretary of State. I don't think there will be any problems. So this will be on the ballot, primaries in June of 2026 and on the November 2026 ballot. So all 5 of the districts will be on the ballot. They will draw lots or something to determine which of the 5 seats are 2 years and which are 4 years. So that is all I have. Thank you, Nicole.
Pat?
Also enjoyed Party in the Park and National Night Out, and I kind of wanted to give a hats off to Confluence. That's the consultant, right? Not only did they have these cool park plans there, but earlier, you know, they'd done these either-or choices. So I think a lot of us went to that meeting with the either-or choices. And then out there at Party in the Park, they had a series of different plans and purposely left some things out and put some things in the different plans. So I really think they've done a great job of trying to collect some input from the public. I think it's going to be really nice to see what they come up with. I did notice that there are electric boxes now at the North Walnut Creek access, so I was wondering, does that mean the artist is going to be bringing the mushrooms soon? Do we know?
Today or yesterday, I was in touch with the artist. Actually, the artist, which is in California, had a significant injury. So it's kind of delayed things, and the artists are artists and not electricians. So that process is taken. They have said September 17th, but Scott told me to put it in pencil and not pen in my calendar because this has been a long process. But we still are planning a ribbon cutting this fall yet.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
but
That was
they
really
did
kind of my
say-
question, but we'll probably be doing it without the mushrooms.
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought,
We're waiting for the mushrooms, so we have the full project.
okay, September 17th is what,
Is when the artists,
I thought she said December.
oh, I'm,
Okay,
no,
okay, my bad.
September, the artists will be coming, so hopefully by October we'll.
Yeah, okay, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. That's exciting. And those events were really wonderful, so that was great. And then I wanted to bring this up because there's a group of sustainability folks, volunteers around different groups in the metro, and they get together every once in a while on a regional basis. And they've been talking about the idea of coming together to do Week Without Driving. If you go to weekwithoutdriving.org, you can check it out. It's an actual September 29th to October 5th is the week. So we don't have a lot of lead time this year, and I'm not sure who else is doing it at this point. But the concept is, yes, try not to drive as much, but really it's more about when you are driving, think about what someone who does not have a car and would not be able to drive, what they would need to do. So it's kind of a reflection thing as much as it is a shift in your own personal habits. We might want to participate in something like this, particularly if others are doing it, since a lot of the material exists. It's just a matter of publicizing it. So I don't know whether Derek and company are going to be able to play with this at all for this year, but I wanted to bring it up, make sure everybody knew about it, and go to weekwithoutdriving.org to look at it, and then we can it might be something we want to play with in the future, especially in light of the work that's happening with DART right now. Might be a good idea. And I think that's all I wanted to mention at this point. Thank you.
Okay. Well, once again, everybody lists everything else that I want to talk about first. I don't have a whole lot to add. National Night Out, I will endeavor to work harder for the donut eating contest next year. Yeah, practice. Thursday, I just was looking at my calendar. Thursday is the start of the school year again, so I'm going to be greeting the new teachers and the teachers coming back at the PAC Thursday morning. So that's always a great time to welcome them back.
I attended the West Des Moines kickoff, and they had Catherine Harrington from the chamber do it this year, and she did a high kick. So
Not happening.
I'm just saying, it's out there.
Yeah, not happening. But now I lost my train of thought. No, but going back to Aurora and 70th again. Kristen, please convey to engineering that that's been a long project from your department standpoint. So thank you for sticking it through with us. And I've driven it both streets a number of times since it's been done, and I think it's going to be a great improvement overall. I think it's just a matter of people just getting used to it and working on it. But I think especially on Aurora, that's going to be a great change for that. And I think it's for the best. I think it's very well designed after I've driven it and seen exactly what happens where. And so I'm anxious to see what happens here. But let's give it all a chance, and I know it's going to work great. So with that, I don't have anything else. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.